drivers for veterans homelessness here in the state of California?
Huh. Wow, it's multifactorial. Some of our homeless veterans, like some of our homeless anybody, want to be homeless, meaning in the sense they do not want to come into any structured environment. And military homeless veterans often have additional overlays on top of that. But everyone in this room, I'm certainly knows the effect of closing all the state mental hospitals 30 years ago, when the advent of all these new miracle psychotropic drugs was supposed to cure everyone to go back to a normal life with their family and have a job. That didn't happen. And so with no assets, no places to put these people, they wound up on the street. As a physician, I think that 1/3 of all the people in county and city jails really belong in a hospital that can afford mental health services. So it's multifactorial. But I think the veterans community is addressing the question of homeless vets now very carefully. Here's an example. We just built a new home at West LA. It's a beautiful campus. It's got 8 wards, and we weren't allowed to open wards 5, 6, 7, and 8 until the kitchen was built. This is the most famous kitchen in all of California. I think everyone in the legislature knows about it. Why wasn't the kitchen built when we built the home? Because the VA across the street promised us through a sharing agreement that they would not only supply us pharmaceutical help and give us the doctors, but they would also take care of our cooking needs. Well, the building got built, and at the last day, you cut the ribbon, no kitchen, and they basically recused themselves from that sharing agreement. So we couldn't fill those. Given that I had 4 empty wards, we turned to the VA, who 2 years ago was in a terrible crisis with homelessness on the streets of LA, on the front pages of the newspaper, and we said to them, we'll open up 2 of our wards and house, this is transitional housing, for emergency housing for homeless vets. We took in 84 of them. Now my need, now that we've passed the survey and I can start bringing the skilled nursing vets in, because that's where our backlog is, I look at wards 7 and 8 now, and I see that the number of homeless vets, the VA's own homeless population has dwindled from 84 to 59. That tells me that the need is dropping. Why? Well, there are so many community groups that are involved in housing veterans, from Veteran Village in San Diego, all over the state. Plus, the federal VA just opened up a master plan for that West LA campus. They've already transformed one of the buildings into these beautiful rooms on the par of somewhere between a Motel 6 and a Marriott. That's the quality of room a homeless vet gets, his own bedroom, his own bath. So the facilities are there. I'm going to encourage the VA to please remove their THP, their transitional housing patients, out of my West LA home, because my need now is skilled nursing and memory care, and not just in West LA.
So let me ask you, you stated we have about 11,300 veterans here in California.
Yes.
Could you possibly give a breakdown, maybe disaggregate that data? Are these different generations? Are these folks that come from the Korean War, the Vietnam War,
right,
the war in Iraq? Is it a combination thereof? Or there's a large number of folks who come from a particular war in general, if they went? And also to, is there a breakdown too on ethnicity as well and gender?
Right. No, I can't.
To the best of your ability.
No, I cannot. And counting the homeless is already a challenge.
Yeah.
You know that every community in the state, one day in January, 2 nights in January, goes out and looks under every underpass and does a counting. I think they're counting. They're not at the same time asking, by the way, are you 1/8 Native American?
Sure.
It's just not happening. I don't have that information. I think the counties have a feel for how many homeless there are.
But do you know, but you have a ballpark figure that in California we have 11,300 homeless vets.
Yes.
Do you have an idea, like, if it's broken down, 25% of them are folks from Vietnam War?
No, I don't.
Nothing like that?
Okay. I don't.
Okay.
And I wonder if anyone does.
Yeah, no, I don't. I don't think any of us do. And let me go back to the original question I asked. What your perspective is with regards to the the circumstances of homelessness among veterans in California. I know you talked about mental health illnesses, but what I'm just trying to dig in deeper for my own education as well too. Are these folks, is this post-traumatic, stress, syndrome coming back from combat, and the mental illness? Is this poverty? Is it a combination thereof? Is it lack of skill set when they finish their term in the military and they have nowhere to go? I want to really get into this.
I got it. I don't think any homeless veteran has only one, checks off one box in that category. It's not so different than non-veteran population. People spiral down.
Sure.
PTSD is an organic, real psychiatric condition. And just like depression, severe depression, or schizophrenia, or bipolar disease, people spiral down. And the farther down they go, the more dysfunctional they become, first at work, then with their family. And they could, if it goes down, and if it goes on long enough and down deep enough, they wind up being bereft of both job and family. And so they're on the streets. Some of them don't want help. Some of them don't know they don't know what the assets are out there. But if they reach out at all, I'm going to tell you something I just learned this morning, because in addition to being here today, my department is hosting the first of its kind ever meeting of all veteran groups in the state at the Holiday Inn. It's all the heads of all 8 Veterans Administration hospitals, all the county CVSOs, our links, everybody, including my agency, we're all here, all the not-for-profits. And we learned today that San Diego has a wonderful program. It's called 211. They worked it out with their public utilities. Anybody who calls for help in acute state of need, it could be being suicidal or being homeless, you call 211 anywhere in Imperial and San Diego County, and you will get connected to a service provider. It might be one of my own people from Calvet. It might be somebody at the county medical society. It might be a not-for-profit organization that specializes in acute. Why can't, I think I shameless, just like in surgery, if somebody does something better than I do, I shamelessly steal that best technique. There's no pride of ownership here. We need to copy best. Maybe 211 is a system we should institute for the state, where anyone from Redding down to Chula Vista who calls for help, I feel suicidal, they can get directed to, and this is what Calvet can do. We can aggregate all the assets in the state. That's what I'm trying to do across town in these few days.
And I think it's incredible. I think it's a wonderful idea, if you're able to do this, without a doubt. Any other further questions or commentaries? Ms. Mitchell.
If I could just respond, I think, to the last question you posed. I was struck with the event I mentioned earlier that I co-hosted with the Congresswoman and follow-up conversations with women veterans. At the time, I was in the Assembly, and I represented Big VA, if you will. And to hear women who were in the reserves and women who ended up being away from home longer than they anticipated, women who were single parents who had made arrangements for their children, but the number of children in LA County foster care who ended up in the foster care systems because their mothers were, what's the word I'm struggling for?
Deployed.
Deployed, thank you. Deployed, who would kind of run the gamut of family members. There were at least 24 women that we engaged and intervened on their behalf, because then after they came back, their children were in foster care. And so we talk about our feelings about veterans being homeless. To think that because of your deployment contributed to your children ending up in the foster care system was devastating to me. Right. And so when you talk about the cause, it was things that you don't think about as a single person when your deployment ends up being longer than you anticipate.
Well, in addition to having a deputy, a very strong deputy in my department for outreach to women veterans, we just, a month ago, hired a new deputy for all the other underrepresented vets. Because we need somebody, In addition to having more veterans in California than any other state, we have, you name any subgroup, we have
Right.
more Native American veterans than any other state, more LGBT, more homeless, more Latino, more African American.
More single parents.
More single parents than any other state. So it's great that I have a deputy who's now going to start outreaching in a similar fashion to the way Deputy Sin did to women, to outreach to the others. For example, let's imagine you're a transgendered vet, or a lot of LGBT vets have had, are coming to us to help correct their federal papers, the DD 214 papers that say they were dishonorably discharged because they were gay. So we help them ameliorate that. But let's imagine you're a transgendered vet. Do you think, a vet, and you need assistance, do you think you're going to walk into the 4th floor of a federal building in an open cubicle and talk? No. We have to invent, and we are inventing, special means of encountering all the subgroups. And we hope we'll do a better job with people whose ability, you know, we're parents of 2 children that we got out of the foster care system, so special a place in my heart. But if anybody's that desperate, they need to reach out to us.
And I appreciate your sensitivity to the unique and changing complexity and needs of California's vets. I really appreciate that. Given the example you just cited, the women also talked to us about going to big VA, and the exam rooms for intake didn't have curtains. And so as women, we understand the importance of privacy when you go in to talk to a doctor. And so, you know, this notion that today's veteran ain't your WW2 veteran. The California's veterans of today are younger, have more complex issues, and so I deeply appreciate being reinforced in your sensitivity and awareness of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. You know, the federal VA obviously has been an institution that has been rife with controversy for a whole variety of reasons. Through your opinion, are they improving? Is it the same status quo, or some improvements here and there but lacking elsewhere?
I, along with my 53 equivalents from the states and territories, went back to Washington, D.C. A month ago, and we met the entire federal VA staff, including their new secretary, Secretary McDonald. Extraordinary person, extraordinary vision, going to make the VA systems more customer-friendly, change the culture. I was really, really impressed, not only with the health administration, but the benefits administration, even the cemeteries administration. So I think that they have a wonderful executive team in place. It's going to take a while for some of that to filter down. We have particular needs in California, but I enjoy a particular ability to be able to reach out to the federal secretary on a number of occasions, and more occasions are coming, especially if the conversation switches to Yountville, where we'll need to have access, and I think California is very well positioned with this new leadership team. I'm impressed.
So you have confidence with the new or the incoming secretary?
I do. I think the implementation of the Choice Act, I'd like him to manipulate it for California a little bit better. For example, where is the nearest VA clinic once you leave Sacramento headed north? Yeah. Oregon? What do our folks do in Redding or even Yountville? Our guys have to get on buses. Some of them may have just had spinal surgery and they're in a wheelchair. Can you imagine riding a bus from Redding to either, pick your hospital, Mather, Martinez, Palo Alto, or San Francisco? So I'd love for them to open up a, we call them CBOCs, community-based outpatient clinics. Love for them to take over one of our buildings at Yountville and make a clinic there or up in Redding. So I think...
Now, let me ask you, what's that culture been like at the federal VA?
I don't know. I stay out of it.
But you have an opinion, don't you?
Well,
you just talked
frankly,
about
in my opinion,
open,
I would close every VA
siloed,
hospital in the country if you asked me to take the job.
You would
I
not.
say that again. I will close every VA hospital in the country and immediately
Restart over
direct
again.
their patients to the community.
I think that says it all. I think that embodies this. Not an expert on veteran affairs issues, but the things that I hear with regards to what Ms. Mitchell just mentioned with regards to female members of the military forces coming in and no curtains. This cubicle approach, and if you're an LGBT member, obviously the confidentiality issue, especially in an institution that has a very strict hierarchy, a very strict culture, and laws are one thing, culture is something that's completely different, altogether. And whether that is embedded, from top to bottom or bottom to top, as you know well, you can have a wonderful secretary with an incredible vision. If it's not executed and then it does not permeate, to the very bottom, then and it's what's nice on paper, but it just doesn't do what it needs to do to help the veterans. The veterans, I'm going to just close this, and this is more actually, educational for me. I was always curious. The VA money comes from DOD, or is this a direct appropriation from the general fund in the Congress?
From the, it's a department just like any other
Okay,
department.
separate from
It gets
DOD.
its-
Okay, good. Okay.
Right. And they have 3 divisions, in a sense, the way we do: health, the hospitals, veterans benefits, including the GI Bill, and cemeteries.
Gotcha.
Which
Okay,
is
gotcha. Okay.
what my department mimics.
Gotcha. Okay. Sounds very good. Very good. Thank you very much. Any other questions, Roz? Oh, yes, Ms. Leyva.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. I'm just going to ask you, Mr. Secretary, to have a sensitivity also for women who have been sexually assaulted. And when you talk about LGBT members walking into that 4th floor room, to just think about how difficult it would be for a woman who's been sexually assaulted to walk into a room full of men and try and tell her story.
Right. In fact, actually, when I describe veterans who are coming back injured, I say physical, psychological, and moral injuries of war
Thank you.
or military service.
Thank you.
Okay. What we're going to do right now is we're going to bring up folks who are in support of Dr. Imbasiani. Those who are in support, please ask you to come up, be brief in your comments.
Mr. Pro Tem, members of the committee, thank you. Jerome Encinas on behalf of the Disabled Veterans Business Alliance. I've had the privilege of meeting Dr. Imbasiani in a prior time, and today I'm honored to support his approval by the committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next witness, so we're just going to take, we're not taking long testimonies. We're just taking away those witnesses in support. Okay.
My name is Brig Goodwin, and I'm an Army Ranger and veteran of 8 years. I'm the co-chair of the Legislative Committee for the Disabled Veteran Business Alliance, and I've owned a small and disabled veteran-owned business for 15 years, certified in the state of California. We run part of what we do is we hire disabled veterans, and I support the appointment as well.
Thank you. Next witness in support.
Jody Hicks on behalf of Equality California. And I've known Dr. Imbasiani for many years, so I want to speak both as a friend, but also for Equality California. Dr. Imbasiani served during Don't Ask, Don't Tell, during that time when he could not share stories about his beautiful family, his husband, and his children. And he still served, saving many, many lives during that time period. And then went on to advocate tirelessly to end those discriminatory policies, including even having conversations with President Obama about that issue. So on behalf of Equality California, we're very, very supportive. And then just very quickly, as a friend, I just want to speak to his commitment to diversity. And you'll hear from Dustin behind me about California Medical Association, but I worked there when Dr. Imbasiani was a board member. And when I took over, filling very big shoes of those behind me, I was the first woman to serve in that position in an organization that was 100 years old. And Vito went out of his way to be as supportive as he could in all ways, both as a friend and a professional and in policy and everything. So
Thank you.
very supportive.
Thank you very much. Next witness in support.
Dustin Corcoran, California Medical Association. Jody just said everything I would have said. It's just standard. But I'm very proud to be here on behalf of Dr. Mbasiani. I've known him for nearly 20 years now, and I can tell you that there's nobody more loved by the staff of CMA and by his fellow board members than Dr. Mbasiani. And very quickly, he came here to the state capitol a number of years ago after his last tour and gave a presentation to a number of staff here about what it meant to be a physician in war, what it meant for our men and women in the service to put themselves in harm's way. He gave that same presentation to the California Medical Association Board of Trustees, and I can tell you, even among some grizzled docs, there was not a dry eye in the house, and we are all indebted to Dr. Mbasiani for his service, and I couldn't think of anybody better to take this job on.
Thank you very much. Next witness in support.
Hi, I'm Charlene Taylor. I'm chair of the California Veterans Board, and I'm here on behalf of the board. And I speak with them in mind that there is a unanimous support for Dr. Mbasiani in this position. I'm also prior Air Force reservist, 16 years lieutenant colonel, served in Operation Iraqi Freedom and Enduring Freedom, and retired chief operating officer from Kaiser Permanente, Northern California, not Southern California. And I can tell you, I know what good leadership looks like. And Dr. Mbasiani is the quintessential leader, and we would all be so fortunate to have him in this position. He has our full support.
Thank you very much. Next witness in support.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. Aaron Reed, proud to be here in support of the good doctor. We work with the Vet Foundation Fund and have raised several $100,000. I think some people here have actually played in that golf tournament once a year for our veterans, and we're pleased to work with him and his staff. And not only that, my client USAA, which is an insurance company for the military, strongly support his confirmation, as do my law enforcement and firefighter clients, many of whom are proud veterans. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next witness in support.
Dale Smith, I'm the Senior Vice Commander for the Department of Veterans, or Department of California Veterans of Foreign Wars. Our over 80,000 members here in California know the history of our problems. We know the issues that are associated with the medical portion of the veterans' homes. We strongly support Dr. Mbasiani as the secretary. His quick wit and his medical knowledge and acumen will prove helpful to our veterans. His passion for our veterans is unquestionable, and we strongly support his appointment. Thank you very much.
Thank you much. Thank you much for your testimony. Next witness in support.
Mr. Chair, members, Bryce Doherty on behalf of the California Society of Anesthesiologists, California Ambulatory Surgery Association, and most importantly, the California Orthotic and Prosthetic Association. In my opinion, bottom line, I think Dr. Mbasiani is a talented urologist. I think he's obviously an amazing father and husband. I think he's a brave American, and above everything else, I just think he's an outstanding and compassionate human being, and urge your support of his confirmation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next witness in support.
Mr. Chairman, members, Pete Conity, and I represent the American GI Forum, the American Legion, AMVETS, Vietnam Veterans of America, California Military Officers Association of America, California Association of County Veterans Service Officers, and the California State Commanders Council of 20 veterans groups, including the Jewish War Veterans, the Marine Corps League, and the Military Order of the Purple Heart. And we believe this is one of the best appointments that has been made in a long, long time. The veterans community is 100% behind Dr. Mbasiani. However, we want to go on record as saying if we want him to succeed, the legislature and the administration has got to spend the money to fix up the veterans' homes. There's over $60 million in deferred maintenance. And the oldest veterans' home in the state, Yountville, is in desperate need of repair. And it's time to make some decisions. And one of those decisions, we believe, should be to build a new residence hall at Yountville, for which the federal government will pay 2/3 of the cost. So if we all want him to succeed, we got to give him the tools to do it.
Nice setup, Mr. Mbasiani. Yeah. So with that, any other folks in support? Seeing none, those in opposition? Seeing no opposition, okay. Do we have a motion? We have a motion made by Ms. Leyva. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Canella? Aye. Canella, aye. Leyva? Aye. Leyva, aye. Mitchell? Aye. Mitchell, aye. Runner? DeLeon?
Aye.
DeLeon, aye.
Mr. Imbassiani, congratulations. You pass on a 4-0 vote. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Okay, colleagues, we're going to continue the agenda. We're going to go file item number 2 through number 7. That includes file item number 2B through G. So it's 2 through 7. Can I get a motion? We have a motion made by Ms. Leyva. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Canella? Aye. Canella, aye. Leyva? Aye. Leyva, aye. Mitchell? Aye. Mitchell, aye. Runner? DeLeon?
Aye.
DeLeon, aye.
Okay. We're going to adjourn this Rules Committee hearing, and we're going to go to an executive session.